Hey guys, welcome back. Got another unboxing here from Moe's Game Table. This is a game that is not yet available. It will be coming to Kickstarter at the end of May from PSC Games. It's a title, Lincoln, from Martin Wallace, a guy who needs no introduction. He's got numerous games to his credit. I think everyone's well aware of his design chops, so don't need to cover those again. But this is a preview copy, believe it or not. This actually looks more like a production copy, but this is going to be previewed by me in a couple weeks. The back of the box will explain to you the game here. It's a fast-paced, card-driven strategy war game set in the American Civil War, allowing you to refight the entire war at a strategic level in under 2 hours. It's played basically by card decks, and what's interesting here is it's not a deck construction game or deck builder. It is a deck destruction game. So what's going to happen is you're going to be burning cards out of your deck to build units, so that way your deck is thinner, thinned out quite a bit. At least the stronger cards will be. There will be some weaker cards that'll still be in your deck, but look at that. Art quality of the box is fantastic. Worthington Publishing is also involved in this. And let's take a look on the inside and see what we have in store. So we've got our rule book, nice little small rule book. We'll come back to that in a minute, but just flip through it. It's all full color with plenty of illustrations and examples of play. And it runs 16 pages. So nice short rule book, easy to get into the game. You have a sheet of counters. Nice chunky counters, rounded corners, so no need to break out the corner clipper. I know some people might be a little disappointed with that, but hey, it makes it easier to get on the table. These look like they're about 3/4 inch, a little bit shorter than an inch counters. So we'll come back to those in a moment. And we have our map, beautifully illustrated map, really pretty looking. And cards. We have 2 decks of cards. And we'll open those and take a look at those in a minute. And then we have a couple of discs. So let's take a look in the rule book here. Goes over all of the components in the game. One thing that is a little different is game markers are listed as 2 black discs. Here they sent 2 white discs, so I would assume that will change in the final production copy, but based on the preview quality, this is just amazing. This, like I said, looks like a production quality copy, not a preview quality copy. So kudos to PSC Games for producing a fantastic product immediately and sent out to all the reviewers to get first looks at this game and be able to bring that information to you guys when it comes to backing it on Kickstarter in late May. So let's flip through the rulebook real quick and we'll take a look at some of the steps of the game. The Confederate player starts with a hand size of 5 cards, and the Union has a hand size of 6. And then Union player will start off the game with a 3 strength army in Washington, 2 strength in Harper's Ferry, Kentucky, and Cairo. Confederate starts with 3 strength army in Manassas, a 2 strength army in each of Front Royal, Savannah, and New Orleans, a 1 strength army in Nashville, Fort Henry, Donelson, and Fort Monroe. So that is your starting units on the map, and the Union player does start first. So basically what happens in this game is the Union player will, Union and Confederacy both draw from their decks, and the Confederate player has a smaller hand size of 5, 6 for the Union. But I was looking through the rules earlier, and it says that the players take turns, and as the players are taking turns to do actions, the Union blockade can actually affect the Confederate hand size. Excuse me. So the hand size can actually go down for the Confederates. So not sure exactly how that works because I haven't played it, but it's interesting to see that the Confederate hand size can be altered by actions taken by the Union player. The cards break down into different areas. They can be used as 1, 2, or 3 strength armies, which is what we saw here when we were looking at the counters earlier. You have 1, 2, and 3 strength armies. You also have forts, which are these counters up top here. And then these are control markers for the Union and the Confederacy that will go out there for controlled areas of the map. Not only can you use them as armies, you can use them as politicians and forts as well. So there's definitely multiple uses for the cards, but one strength armies are deployed differently than others. Remember before I was saying about deck destruction? Here you actually just discard the card because it's a lower strength army unit and not a 2 or 3 strength. Those I would assume are built by actually destroying the card by throwing it out of play. So there are a couple different areas on the card. We've got leadership movement and naval movement. Movement is done by train, naval movement by ship obviously, and then leadership, which is used in combat to get greater strength when it comes to the combat portion of the game. Here's what I was saying before about the Union having the size of always their hands always 6 cards. There's 2 shuffles only in this game for the Union player. The Confederate player can reshuffle multiple times, but the Union only gets 2 shuffles, and that's when you have to check for victory points. On the first shuffle, the Union player is going to add in the 1 cards. On the second, they're going to add the 2 cards. But when the Union player shuffles their cards, you have to check the victory points, and if the victory points are less than 2. On the first reshuffle, the Confederate player immediately wins. On the second reshuffle, if they are less than 5, then the Confederate player wins. So that's kind of interesting too. I want to see how that all plays out when I get a chance to play it. But the actions you get that you can perform are deploy unit, move army, declare an attack in a contested location, discard cards, and then you have card actions, which I kind of glossed over. Sorry about that, but we'll come back to that in a minute. And then you can pass. Now the card actions. I did kind of mention about the naval movement and train movement and leadership, but you also have action, free action, and benefits marked on them. Like you give this one here, the example says blockade runner, free action, draw 3 cards. So that's, I guess it's going to be similar to most card games where card rules will actually supersede the rules in the rule book. That'll basically, cards break the game in that regard. So we'll have to see how that plays out when we get a chance to play it. And that's what I was talking about before. At the top of the card, they have Army Strength from 1 to 3, Fort for the Confederate player only, Ship, and European Influence, which is the politicians. So that's going to be, like I said, interesting to see how all these cards interplay and how that affects the strategies that each player uses through the game. Combat, which is what everybody wants to know about. The combat is actually kind of interesting from what I've read. The attacker, when they come into a position that they want to attack, they have to play a card face down. And then the defender has the option to stand and fight or withdraw. And then the defender can also actually play a card face down if they wish to. Then you reveal the face down cards and you add the strength along with the strength of the units that are in place. Like here, this would be a 6 strength units, or I should say armies, that would be attacking. Basically, and then the fort has a 3 for the defender. Basically, you do a simple subtraction and then round down. The winner is the one who loses a number of counters equal to or half, or I should say the winner loses a number of counters equal to or half the total number of counters he has in the battle, rounded down. Of course, you get to choose which ones you remove. The loser loses a number of counters equal to half the number of counters that he has in the battle, rounded up. So remember, winner rounds down, loser will round up. So if you lose 3 counters, if you have 3 counters, you would lose 2. It's a good way to trick somebody. If you can do that little by little, you can start winnowing down their troops over time. But of course, the decks also start off strong for the Confederacy, and then over time that starts to get weaker, and the Union gets a stronger deck as the game moves on. So all of this, like I said, really looks to be pretty interesting. I can't wait to give it a try. There's your endgame conditions. The Union player fails to score 2 VP before shuffling, which we talked about before. Union player fails to score 5 VP before shuffling for the second shuffle. That'll be, both of those would give the Confederacy the win. The Union player exhausts his deck for the third time. In this case, Union player adds up his total VPs, and if he has 12 VP or more, he wins. Otherwise, the Confederate player wins. So the Confederate player is basically has 2 instant wins on the Union shuffles, and then on the third shuffle, it comes down to, that's the final game end scoring. Then you have to have 12 VP for the under 12 VP for the Confederacy to win. The Confederate player can also win immediately if the marker in the Europe track reaches Confederate end. We'll take a look at the map now and see how that looks. This is a nice map, and something I really like about a map like this, a 2-player map, if you can see, we're facing this way, and we can read New Orleans, Savannah, Atlanta, so on and so forth, but these are all upside down. So that player gets to read, the Union player gets to read their locations face up to them rather than reading upside down, because that's something that can really throw some people off sometimes when you're playing. This is the blockade track, which we talked about before. As you can see, the hand size starts at 5, but as it gets further down the blockade, it can get down to 4 or to 3. So interesting to see how that works out when we get to play the game. And then here's the Europe track. If you can get it all the way down to, say, 3, 6, 7, you have a 10 space track. If you can get down here, that immediately gives the Confederate player a victory. And then also here it says Union player claims victory if he controls Vicksburg and Richmond. So if you can get both Vicksburg and Richmond, then Vicksburg is here and Richmond is over here. So you've got 2 spaces right there for the Union player to control, then they win. And let's see if I can get these cards opened up real quick, and we can take a look at a couple of them and see how that art looks. Pardon me while I open these up off camera. You don't need to see that. Okay. So, grab a couple cards out here so you can take a better look at these cards in detail. We got a couple right here. We've got, this is the politician and the leadership card. That's the first one that I grabbed off the deck. And then you have this one, oops, sorry, at the camera. You got one with a 1 strength army and then 5 leadership. And then this one has, it says reinforcements benefit play before leaders have been revealed. Move one of your units to battle location from a connected location. So this is one of those actions that we talked about a moment ago. So there it seems to be good use with these cards and some interplay. Here's a blockade runner. A really nice art on these too. Free action, get to draw 3 cards. That was the example from the book. And I really like the look of these cards. Real interesting art on them. There's your rail movement, and you see the 2s and 3s for the army units at the top. We got one upside down in here. Higher ground or high ground benefit here. Play before leaders have been revealed. Add 2 to your total if you are the defender. So defense as well as the attacker both has advantages to these, gets advantages with these cards. So pretty interesting. We'll have to take a deeper dive on it when we get to play. Obviously, like I said, I'll be doing a preview here in a couple weeks, but wanted to give you guys a quick look at the quality of this, because I was very impressed with this quality. That's the second preview copy I've gotten in the past couple months that really blew me away. The first one was No Motherland with that, which I just did a preview. It's up on Moe'sGameTable.com right now from Lockhorn Games. This one from PSC Games is, like I said, it is production quality ready. And let's pop one of these counters out and give you a look at a 3-strength Union Army. That's what that counter looks like. Nice thick counter, rounded corners. Definitely a fantastic presentation, and hopefully the gameplay will be equal to it, which I'm sure it will be, being that it's a Martin Wallace game. And I look forward to getting it on the table and giving my thoughts and sharing it with you so that way you guys be ready to back it at the end of May. That's Lincoln from PSC Games, designed by Martin Wallace. Thanks a lot, guys. See you next time.